What's up, guys? In this video, I want to share the reasons why I decided to pursue Rank and Rent. Digital real estate, website rental, whatever you want to call it, all the same thing. And I want to talk about this because I looked at over 2,100 business ideas, like legitimately, not just some random number. I literally came up with more than 2,100 business ideas over a 9-month period. And this is the one that stood out to me among all of those. And I came up with some very interesting ones, some stupid ones, but I want to talk about why I decided to go all in on this particular model. It has proved very, very lucrative for me. If you don't know who I am or my story or anything, I've made, at this point, and I know everybody seems to say this, but I've literally made millions of dollars doing this. I've also lost a lot of money, and it took me a while to figure it out, but now that I figured it out, it's been extremely lucrative, provided an insane lifestyle for me, and I've been able to teach a whole bunch of people how to do it as well. So that's what I want to do in this video. Let me give you a little bit of backstory, and I'm going to keep this concise and to the point. I'm not going to waste your time. I used to be a door-to-door salesman. I used to knock on doors and sell home security systems. I was, first of all, before that, I was a missionary, a Mormon missionary in Africa. Came home, had no idea what I wanted to do, worked for my dad for a summer on the farm. That just didn't line up for me with what I wanted to do, just because, well, more than anything is because I had an ego and I was like, well, I don't want something handed to me, but that's another story. So I wanted to go create something for myself, but I didn't know what it was. Got this opportunity to do door-to-door sales and saw the money, jumped at it, right? Then I'm in door-to-door sales and I'm like, this ain't it. Great money, not the lifestyle, not aligning with my goals. I can't control my pricing. There's not any recurring revenue. There's all these things. I was like, this just isn't it, right? I need to start my own business, but what? Heard this podcast by this guy named James Altucher. This little, kind of this nerdy little dude with this fro, super intelligent. I really like his stuff, but I remember this podcast episode I listened to one day, and he said every day he comes up with 10 business ideas to exercise his idea muscle. And he's like, ideas are like a muscle. You got to exercise it. You got to come up with them every day. So he's like, I challenge you. And what I do is I come up with 10 business ideas. No, he comes up with 10 ideas every day. And I took that and I was like, let me come up with 10 business ideas every day. And so I started doing that. This is in my 3rd year doing door-to-door sales. I'm desperately trying to get out, but I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm going to be able to fall on, where I'm going to be able to transition out. So I start coming up with ideas. In the first week or two, it was kind of fun. Like all these ideas that were spinning, I was able to just jot down that thing and that thing. And I had a bunch of ideas. And then after a while, I don't have any more ideas. And so you start looking for ideas everywhere. It's a really good exercise. Guys, I did this for 9 months. I gave myself a break on Sundays because it was literally extremely mentally taxing. But Monday through Saturday, 10 business ideas. There were days when I was literally like, oh crap, I forgot. And I'd grab my phone and come up with 10 ideas on the spot at midnight. I did this religiously for 9 months. So I did the math and it was like 2160 or something like that. Literally over 2,000 business ideas. Here's why I decided on Rank and Rent. And the funny thing is Rank and Rent never made that list. What ended up happening is I ended up going to lunch with a buddy, and it was an acquaintance at the time, wasn't a friend at the time. He had done door-to-door sales and he had gotten out. He had escaped the rat race, or the golden handcuffs. And we were talking and I was like, Brad, I don't know what I'm going to do. Can you, any ideas? And he's like, well, do you like the internet? And I'm like, I love the idea of the internet. He's like, well, listen to this podcast. And he sent me a podcast. Lo and behold, that podcast episode was talking about digital real estate, talking about Rank and Rent. And as soon as I heard it, I was in. I knew it resonated more with me than any of the 2,100 business ideas I'd come up with, because it checked certain boxes. So here's the box that it checked, okay? Number one is it was internet-based. Keep in mind, I'm coming from a door-to-door background. I'm having to fly or drive. I'm having to be at the location. I didn't want to have a business where I had to be in one spot. So whatever business I was going to get into, I really wanted it to have that capability to be internet-based, okay? Now, prior to that, I had kind of been sold this lie that I was building my business within the business, right? You're a door-to-door salesman, and by the way, I hope you guys can hear me. It's raining. I live in the desert and it never rains, ever. It's insane. and it's raining today. So hopefully you guys can hear me. But I was kind of fed this lie of like, you're building a business within your business. But the reality is, if you can't control your pricing, you can't control your own commissions, you can't, do anything on the back end, you're not getting paid again and again when the company is, you don't own the business, right? You're just an employee. Yes, I was on a commission base, but which is better, I think, than a 1099 or than a 9 to 5. I was on a 1099, but I was still an employee. I was still making somebody else rich. So number one is it had to be my own business, but inside of being my own business, number one is it needed to be internet based. So it checked that box. The next thing that it checked is I had control. I had heard about, like, I had a neighbor at the time that was doing Amazon FBA stuff, and he was supposedly making a ton of money. I think he was making a ton of money. I never had the guts to ask him straight up, but I heard he was making some insane amounts of money. However, after I looked into it more, I was like, what happens if Amazon stops paying the same percentage on commission, right? So I didn't like the fact that Amazon had that control. Same thing with affiliate marketing. I didn't like the fact that, and I never really looked too deep into affiliate marketing, but the person that owns the product has all the control. What if they decide they don't want to give you a certain commission or a certain affiliate? There's nothing that you can do, right? So internet based, I needed to have control over the business, okay? The third thing is recurring revenue. I was not about to get into a business where I was only going to get paid once. I did this with door-to-door sales. I would knock, I would go through all this pain, sometimes get spit on, I got a gun pulled on me, I knocked on a stripper's door, all true stories. I mean, it's just the craziest stuff, out in the sun, missed the 4th of July to get paid once. And I got paid well. I mean, I was 22, 23, 24 years old, no college degree, made some good money. But I never got paid again and again, so it was really, really hard to stack wealth. Because every year, after I got that check, it started back at zero. So I was like, I have to have recurring revenue. And that was a huge, huge, huge deal for me. Next thing is the profit margins. I wanted something that had juicy freaking profit margins where I made there was a lot of margin in there. I didn't want to be selling, buying something for $2 and selling it for $2.50 where I had all this overhead. And when I found out about this, I was like, wait, I can build a website for less than $100, rank it on Google, and then rent it out for like thousands of dollars or even hundreds of dollars. Like, that just completely blew my mind. Okay, so the profit margins were a huge aspect for me. And then this is another thing, guys, that was massive, is most business models, yes, it's your thing, but at the end of the day, you are not building assets. You are still trading time for dollars, even though you're making more money and you have more control, but you're still trading time for dollars, right? So let's say I own a drop shipping company. Okay, cool. What's the asset? Like, at the end of the day, you don't have any asset. There's nothing there. Like, you're not built. And with this, it's like, I'm not going and making the money. I'm building assets that are then, those assets are going out and making me the money, and I control the assets, and the assets are actually worth something, right? And I know this because I've actually sold individual websites. I sold one of my first websites. My very first website was a towing website in Huntsville, Alabama. And I sold that website for $9,000 a couple years after I built it. I wish I hadn't at this point, but I needed the cash, and I ended up selling it for $9,000. So I was like, I can build assets that then go and make the money. It's like this layer in between where I'm building assets. I'm not just trading my time for dollars, even though it is my business, right? So guys, there was so many different elements. The fact that it was recession resistant, nothing's, I think, recession proof, but recession resistant in the fact that every business needs leads. I love that. I love the idea that I was serving small businesses, which are the backbone of America and the backbone of, honestly, probably the world economy. I don't know if that's true, but I as I'm thinking about it, it seems like that is probably true. Definitely in America, that's the case. There are all these different elements, but these ones that I mentioned, and I guess the last one I would mention is that I needed something that wasn't going to cost me $100,000 to start, $250,000. I wanted to get into real estate. That's the truth. But I realized that for every property that I bought, it was going to cost me I mean, depending on the cost of the property, it was going to be tens of thousands of dollars per property, and each one of those wasn't going to generate that much money. So I needed something that wasn't super capital intensive, and this also checked that box. So I've never met like I met the business model. I've never come across a business model that checked so many boxes like this one. And for me, these ones were the core ones. The biggest one was internet-based, asset-based, creating assets, high profit margins, and what was the other one that was like really a big deal for me? Can't even remember. Anyway, the first ones that I mentioned, those were the most important to me. I have a list of like 12 different reasons why I started this model and why I continue to stay in this model. But the biggest ones are the ones that I've listed in this video. Guys, if you can find me another model that checks even half of these boxes, okay, if you can find me a model that checks half these boxes, but it has to check the box of asset based, okay? I have to be building assets, because I made a commitment to myself a couple years ago that I am going to spend all of my time building assets. And if it doesn't have an asset, I'm not going to build it, okay? If you can find me another business model that it's asset based and has even half of the ones that I just mentioned. And by the way, the one I think I forgot was I had control, which was a huge deal for me. And recurring revenue, those are some of the other ones. Even half of the reasons why I did this one, and it's asset based, I'll look at it, and I would even consider switching. But I'm yet to find a model that checks so many boxes, has so many things going for it, and on top of that is completely untapped relative to all these other models, relative to the drop shipping and the e-com and the Etsy shop and the TikTok shop and you insert business model. You find me something that even comes close to this, and I'll consider jumping ship. And that's the truth. So after looking at 2,100 business models plus, these are the reasons why I chose website rentals, rank and rent, digital real estate, whatever you want to call it. And for those of you that also chose this business model that are in it, I'd love to know in the comments what the biggest reason for you. I love asking that questions. I love asking that question because everyone gets in it for a different reason. So let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys on the next video.